It was his roommate's friend. Turns out it was something that he had going on. It's just so much stuff. And yeah, that happened before, but for me to still find these things out and for people to look at me like I'm crazy because I haven't got.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking today, guys, about Put a Ring on It. We're dealing with Tamika and dealing also with Vince. We want to talk about, obviously, trust and breaking trust in the relationship in episode 8 of season 1, Put a Ring on It. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, subscribe. You click on that bell button for notification of the what up lows. And for those of you who are returning as well, you got the minerals. You got the minerals. All right, let's talk about it. So, watching obviously Tamika and Vince in this episode, I think it was very clear at the very end of the show that there is a lack of trust from Tamika to Vince. There's obviously been an episode of something that's happened in the very beginning of the relationship, as they've both explained in numerous lives, and also as well Vince coming onto my channel to explain his point of view. There was incidents that have happened in the beginning of the relationship that have not been fully resolved. And one of the things I said in our lives about this issue is that when someone doesn't come and own the truth, there are two options for that person who's on the opposite end. It may get to a point where you say, listen, either you let it go and say, I'm going to let this one go, I'm going to forget it, or you say au revoir to the person who's lying, who you feel is not telling the absolute truth. So Tamika's got a choice here, right? She's struggling to trust him, because not only have the instance at the beginning happened, there have been other instances that have also taken occurrence.
Rolling. And then there is a time where I saw a girl coming out of his apartment, and then there were times where I'm out of town for work and his battery all of a sudden died. And certain things.
Okay, and so she explained that at the very end of the show, but she also explained this to the girls when Shay asked her, has there been more things? Now, let me tell you something about trust. Trust is like a premium insurance, okay, for your car or something, for your house, yeah? Once you claim on that insurance, the premium goes up. Yeah, it makes it much more expensive to claim in future, or to insure you in future, due to the fact that you have a history now of breaking the trust of that person, or better yet said, you have a history of claiming on that insurance. And so in relationships, when we give people trust, we're actually saying, here's a premium insurance. Now, when you break it, it takes a lot more now for me to ensure you that you are going to be trustworthy. And one of the issues that Tamika and Vince are kind of struggling with here is that there's not been, I'll say it again, Vince hasn't owned up to it. And this is so interesting, because I think there's obviously discrepancies in the way that they see scenarios. So for instance, the very end scene where she spoke about a girl coming outside of his house, there's a discrepancy in the story. Her story said,
Sneak to your house. I was coming in from out of town because once again, when I leave town, your phone is on, all of a sudden dead. So I walk down the hallway, the girl's coming out of your apartment with you.
States that he came out of the house, walked the girl to the elevator. That's how she saw him. He claims that he never came out the house, he came to the foot of the door, right? And so we got two contrasting stories. What we do know is truth is that girl came out of the house and she was a friend of his flatmate, and obviously he himself was in the house with the girl. That's truth. As to whether anything happened, though, again, is up in the air, because Tamika didn't see anything. He hasn't admitted to anything, that he's done anything wrong. The girl in question hasn't reached out to Tamika to say anything. So we don't know if anything has gone wrong or anything like that. We just know that obviously, the girl was coming outside of the house. Now, it can look bad, and I understand where Tamika's coming from. But I guess for her, coupled, let me say it again, coupled with other incidents, it's not looking good. How many incidents do we need before we start to ask questions and say there is no smoke without fire? You know what I mean? Because we're on like the fourth or fifth time where there's a situation where it doesn't look like that. It's not that. How many situations can a brother be in before we start to say the smoke is coming with fire?
It's from the past, and she got a problem with, and that's where it starts. It ain't nothing I'm doing. It's just what you can't handle, I guess. I don't know what it is.
For her, she's never going to trust him, or she'll have to make a choice to trust him if he doesn't come clean. So anybody watching this, if you're in a relationship where the person's not, where you feel that person's not telling the truth, they're not admitting their wrongs, then let me tell you something. You got a choice to make, because right now what we're seeing from Tamika is it's gonna be a breakdown very soon. Forget the show, after the show, right? Because they've got counselors, they've got people there. She won't break down there. After the show is done, where there's no Dr. Nicole, where there's no counselors on hand, there's no people you can call like that. Okay, it's just you and Vince alone. That's where breakdowns happen, and the breakdowns happen because you feel like no one can hear you, no one's giving you an out, no one's listening to you. You're gonna feel a certain type of way. So Tamika's got a choice to make here and now. Do you just trust what he said in the past and move forward, or do you say I cannot cope and move on? Make a choice.
Like I'm crazy because I haven't gotten over it. It's because I can't get over it, because every time I try to, I found out more stuff. Every
time we argue, it's not because I went out and cheated. It's not
because what we saw at the very end, and if she is true and she's telling the truth in everything that she said, then he's gaslit her all the entire way. Right, he's made it like, why are you being crazy, or why are you acting this way in the past? But actually, truth of the matter, he's kind of gaslit her because he knows that something's happened, and that's not a guarantee. I'm just saying if it is true. Because at the moment, we don't have no evidence. We can only go on what they've said, right? And so I can understand why her dates now with the other gentleman seem so light, bubbly, and encouraging, because she doesn't have to think about him cheating. She doesn't think about him being misbehaving. She doesn't have to think about the times that he's broken her trust. She doesn't think about any of those things, right?
He was basically telling me that I should show my art, because I was telling him that I'm really sensitive about sharing it because I don't want people to judge it, and he basically was telling me that I need to share it. And
so for her, this is a new start with my man. Yeah, the new guy with the mohawk, a great new start. It's a place to start where I don't have to think about your indiscretions and your inability to be 100% punctual, I say 100% punctual, to be 100% honest with myself. And so it's a new beginning for that person, right? New beginning. She spoke about how the guy compliments her and spoke about how the guy really encouraged her in her art. And it's really interesting because obviously, he was saying, obviously, I've encouraged you with your art. I don't understand what's going on. Like, I've been saying, get on with your art. I've been saying, do your art. I've been saying, come on, like, I support your art and stuff. So I don't understand where you're getting excited about this new guy. And the truth of the matter is, he probably has. It's just somebody new and fresh saying the exact same thing you said.
Compliment her about everything she does. I motivate her to do everything he just told her. So I'm not tripping off that at all.
The irony is,
that too also, because there's a lack of trust there, your word no longer is bond. Your word is no longer strong as it used to be. So your compliment now might not seem as genuine. She might not take it as genuine because she's still trying to figure out what's your game. You're still trying to figure out how she can trust you again. So for her, it may not correlate for her. You know what I'm saying? It may not make as much sense as it did when he spoke and said, don't give up on your art, don't give up on your craft, etc., right?
Vince, I'm looking at your nonverbal communication. What are you feeling and thinking as you're hearing her?
I compliment her about...
It was interesting because with Vince talking to Dr. Nicole, when Dr. Nicole said, obviously, how do you feel about her going on a date and how she felt about, obviously, her talking about this new guy, Vince was saying, obviously, he's not tripping, but he made a really good point, which is really true, irrespective of whether he's done something or not. Something's really true here, which is that when you're in a relationship and you feel like you can't tell your partner about maybe an interaction with the opposite sex, and here's a trick, like, look, look, because I've done things in the past and because I've moved in certain ways in the past, I want to make it very clear. Having an interaction with somebody who says they like you, okay, yeah, doesn't count as a normal interaction. I'm just going to be honest with you. Somebody what I mean by that, let me define that. Some of you boys and girls be telling your partner about someone who finds you attractive or likes you, and then going on like you two are friends.
Gone through in the time that we've been together, until recently, we not been on a level to where I could freely talk about this girl I know or this conversation I had with a female.
you're not friends, okay? And in that case, that becomes you trying to make the person jealous, right? This is that la tête. Y'all know what I mean by la tête. That young boy stuff, young girl stuff, where you're trying to make the person jealous and you're claiming it like, no, I'm just telling you what happened to me. No. You explaining how you have great interaction with a person who finds you attractive is not one of those things. But if Vince is really telling her stuff about what happened at work or whatever, or what we like, for instance, what we saw with a camera girl from last episode, where man saying I'm going to take photos, and honestly, Tamika jumped. No.
Why you have your camera?
Because we're gonna be taking photos.
Of each other?
Like, sis, get it together, okay? Choose. This is why I'm saying choose, because it's hurting you. It's going to instill fear in him. He hasn't said he liked the girl. He just says, obviously, we cool, we get along, we're going to go and take some photos. You know these are dates. You're going on your dates. Why is it an issue now when he's packing his camera and you're saying smart comments? Sis, that is not the way. That's not going to make him feel safe to have these kind of conversations. So when he says about the fact that, it's the first time that you've got to a place where she can actually tell, well, they've never been in a place where he can actually talk about another female because she jumps. We actually saw that. So her saying, obviously, no, I'm inquisitive. No, sis. No, sis. Come on. Let's be real and let's be truthful with ourselves.
And before we met, I told him I am a naturally curious person. Even in school, I question everything. And maybe that's the wrong way, but I just want to know everything. And it's like, of course, there's a whole lie.
It's not just because you're inquisitive. You are hurt, and that hurt is causing insecurity, okay? That pain is causing insecurity, okay? And it's causing you to act in a way that is closing the walls around your man. Okay. Again, I don't disagree that I don't disagree that it may be the case of you feeling like he's not being honest, and I agree with you. If that's what you're feeling, then I agree with you. But if you've chosen to stay and you're chosen to move forward, you've got to make a choice now. You're 2 years deep. Plus, you guys have broken up. Even before the show, you guys broke up 2 weeks. You were 2 weeks. You hadn't even, I think it was like 2 weeks before the show, that's when you guys got back together again. So I can understand why the insecurities are there, because you haven't sorted out the issues. You got back together 2 weeks ago, and I'm guessing no real in-depth conversation happened potentially before you got back together again, because if it had, this shouldn't be an issue, right? Unless he's doing something again, right? So I feel like what happened is that the last conversation, you kind of brushed it in the carpet, they go back together 2 weeks before the show, went on the show, etc., etc. But the real depth conversation wasn't really had, right? Wasn't really had. And I'm guessing that's why we're here now, okay? And so, yes, she does assume something. She does jump. We've seen it on the show herself. But I think, obviously, he said, obviously, that the fact that she jumps at every single time when it's to do with a woman, and that's his experience. And I can rock with that. If that's your experience, I can't fluff it. And I know that he fit. So he said something which is really interesting. He said, obviously, he said something about which was really interesting. He was talking about, obviously, her when the girl came out of his room, or came out of his apartment, I should even say. And it's the way he described what Tamika was doing. He was like, she snuck around.
The first time she saw her, the last time she saw her, there was nothing at all, period. Nothing. She just so happened, she snuck to my house that morning.
She snuck in. And she was like, wait, snuck in, hold on a minute. And I'm guessing this is an apartment. So I'm guessing that you can't just come, like you have to go through a main door. Maybe there's buttons or whatever to get through that. I don't know how it works. But it wouldn't necessarily be snuck in. Maybe she was a bit more crafty, and maybe she called somebody on the tannoy thingy or whatever and got in. Either way, she got in. Yeah, I don't necessarily think she was trying to sneak in per se, but maybe I would assume that she was trying to get in without you knowing, right? Because she didn't bell the door frame, nothing like that, blah blah, right? And so maybe she was looking to see if she'll catch you out, and she unfortunately today caught you with another girl, and that doesn't mean that you were doing anything. It's just unfortunate you caught you with a flatmate friend, right? If that's the also truth as well, okay? And so. He also as well actually said, on the actual, it said obviously it was a cut, it was edited slightly. I don't know if it was actually that point in the video, but he actually said she was lying. Now it's funny because obviously I asked Vince on the live that we were having a discussion on, and I discussed a point which was, Tamika said, basically like, you was moving a bit mad, and he said obviously it basically was going to allude to the fact that Tamika lying, because obviously what she said obviously doesn't correspond to what he feels. And then we'll see on the show here where he says obviously about lying, that she lying, something's not quite right. So either she is lying, and then that means, bro, that's also a big thing, bro. If someone's lying on your name, if somebody's lying on your name, bro, partner or not, bro, that's something to be concerned about.
Listen,
Bro,
if
listen.
it's your
Don't
roommate's
talk to
friend,
me
why
like
are you
that.
walking her to the elevator?
What do you mean? I didn't even come out of my house.
You came out the house. That's how I saw you.
You're lying.
Oh my God.
I-
I promise on my grandmother's grave.
That's not a relationship issue. That's something you have to really deep in and say, hey, the person's willing to lie on my name. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you meant to say there's a few details that are inconsistent with what you understand. But you labeled her a liar, meaning you didn't agree with anything the person said. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's a big statement to make, to call her a liar. You know what I mean? On the show. So for me, again, something's not quite right. And the foundations of this, like I can always say, I'm not concerned about now. I'm concerned about what happens after this, because you're getting some support here. When all those building blocks of support are removed, how do you proceed forward? How do you move forward in your relationship if you do move forward in a relationship? How do you build the building blocks of trust? This is why I said I don't understand this dating thing. I get it that it makes people cling on, but in terms of trust, I think the greatest work is being done by Dr. Nicole herself. That's the greatest work. I don't think the dates, yes, they do something, but they're not really the meat and the bones that is building people up in their relationships. It's what Dr. Nicole's doing behind the scenes that we don't get to see. All right. And because obviously he talked about being a liar, but she was saying obviously he walked to the elevator. He said he was still in his house. It's all a heap and a mess. And what I would say is this: anybody watching this, if you're in a relationship where you feel like a person's not being truthfully honest, you've got a choice to make. After a while, and the person says they're not going to come clean, you've got to make a choice. Either you walk away or you stick at it and say, listen, I'm gonna forget that happened and move forward. Otherwise, you're wasting each other's time and you're causing yourself more distress and pain. It's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's not worth it. So yeah, guys, want to leave it there for you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. Let us know down below what your thoughts are as well, because we appreciate you as well. And I want to say this: well, look, healing can't take place unless there's going to be truth dispensed. If you're going to stay in a relationship, healing can't take place unless you're willing to deal with the truth, and so that the person can begin to heal in the relationship. If they're outside the relationship, the truth does not matter, because you're outside the relationship now. Let it go. Feel free, begin the healing process. So guys, stay locked, stay loaded. We appreciate you guys. It's Little Black Book, and we will talk again soon. Yeah.